Welcome to the Courageous Creativity Show. This is Winston. I am so pleased today to have the wonderful Tomina Ward returning. Tomina has been a guest a few times on our show, and I am so pleased to have you come back. Tomina is a military veteran. She is a phenomenal public speaker. She is a mother. She is just one of the most amazing people that I know. And so I'm so thrilled to have you back, Tamina. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Winston. You are phenomenal. And I really, 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 I love spending time with you. And I appreciate you allowing me to be on your platform again today. I really do.
That is fantastic. She is just wonderful. For those of you, if you peruse things like LinkedIn and Instagram, you will see phenomenal speeches and talks and testimonials about the wonderful things that Tamina is up to. And Tamina, your story of resilience really hits home with me, especially these days when we've got so many things that are pondering and that are putting pressure on many of us. Your conversations and your ability to let us know, hey, let's go forward, is a great inspiration to me. So
Mm.
tell me and tell the audience here a little bit about what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, so thank you so much again. So yes, resiliency, and especially with what's happening in today's day and age, resiliency is so important just because their life is lifing for all of us. And because of that, I have really been on a mission to help inspire and encourage young adults just because what they experience today and what they're going through today is just insurmountable compared to what some of us had to experience and deal with when we were younger.
Yeah.
And it's not a cliche. Tomorrow is our children are the future, right? So I have recently been speaking life into young adults about being able to be resilient and what that looks like, and just being encouraged to keep going because it's tough as a young adult, for sure.
You're
Hmm.
so right. I think about young adults these days, and a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, life is easy because life is easy. They get up to get to do stuff." But they have, this is my view, they have the access to the history of the world at their fingertips, the good and the bad about
Yes,
whatever's occurred in the world. And as your brain is forming, that's got to be a lot to deal with and a lot
it
to
is.
figure out.
Absolutely. And the reason that I think that it's so important is I think back to me and I think back to us when we were young. There were times when I was teased for being dark skinned. There were times where I was teased for being thin, and the resources weren't there. And knowing that growing up with a single mother, and actually, let me backtrack a little bit about that. My parents, my mother was 19, my father was 18, and they were young and in love and starting their life, starting the new journey. Didn't know what they were going to do with their lives. My father decided to join the army and told my mother, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead, go forward, and I'll find a house and I'll come back for you all." And he kept his promise. So he went forward, he found that house. As my mother was waiting, she waited 3 months, she waited 6 months, she waited a full year, and he ended up coming back. And like I said, he kept his promise, but he kept part of his promise because when he came back, he had found a house, but he had also found a wife. So I think about how his decisions back then changed the trajectory of my life. And, it required my mother to be a single mom. And when I had the emptiness and that sense of abandonment from my father, knowing that that started so early, I know how that affected my life along the way as a young adult. So knowing that some of our young kids are dealing with things like that, it's so important for us to be pouring into and speaking life. I had to make sure that I took control over my situation.
I don't know if all the time we realize, especially we, all many of us as parents, how decisions we think are about us, for
Mm.
whatever reason, how that has such a ripple effect
Yes,
on
absolutely.
so many other people, right? Including our children, including people who are just around us.
Mm.
I always think about that. I mean, you never know. I can't speak to the circumstance. All I know is that you've come through it. And the thing that I love about what you've done is that you've got this mindset of growing from all of these things,
Yes.
versus letting the things that's happened in the past weigh you down,
Mm.
like be a massive rock filled backpack
Mm.
on your life. You took the backpack off to me.
I,
Like,
I had to, and I love the way that you say that. That visual, it just you can really see it and you can feel it. That heavy backpack, and I always say, Winston, is that resiliency requires roots. So that means that yes, when I was that feeling of being unworthy of my father's love, right? The struggle that my mother had to experience by being a single parent, lack of resources, those were seeds that were being planted as I was growing, having to, yes, get through it, having to push, having to make certain sacrifices in order to be more and have more in life. So yeah, I had to intentionally drop that pack. Yes, sir. Hmm.
I know as an analogy, I just came up while we were talking, but that backpack, for those of you who are out there, just ask yourself a question. How big is this backpack?
Yes. Yes. How big is it? And how long have you been carrying it? Right? You know, there are studies show that 60% of adults have experienced some sort of adverse childhood trauma. And a lot of times, if we are not doing the inner work, right, if we are not seeking therapy, if we're not seeking spiritual healing, then we are still carrying those backpacks into our future, into our current existence, into our present day. And unfortunately, a lot of that spills over into our lives, into our personal lives, right? We find ourselves sabotaging relationships. You
Our
know,
children, right?
absolutely with our children for sure. So understanding that, yeah, we are still carrying some of us that backpack, and what are we going to do about it? Like we have to intentionally do that inner work to where we can release that and release that generational trauma.
I listen, sometimes pops up in my feed uh, this mystic kind of person I would say he's from India, and he's very well known. I would do him injustice if I tried to pronounce his name.
Hmm.
But he shares that the past, and this is a hard thing for me to hear based on the things you shared. I got teased incessantly as well growing up. I had a really humbling speech impediment. And every time I talked, it would sound like a Tourette's kind of response.
Mm.
Like I'm finished talking, but then I keep talking. I'm making verbalizations, and you can understand how tough that is growing up.
Yeah. Mm.
And he shared something that was hard for me to hear. He's like, "The past is not real." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean?" This is when I'm listening to this thing on Instagram.
Mm.
He's like, "It's not real. We are allowing the pain of it, or what has happened to us, to live in our present. Like, why are we doing that?" It was hard for me to hear because a lot of those experiences have helped to groom us, right?
Oh,
All that
absolutely.
mess, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the way that hit you, right? When he said that that's not real, it hit you. And when you talk about the pain and being teased the way that you were, and me even so being teased as well, that pain, you and I and so many others, Winston, we couldn't allow our pain to pause our purpose. And that's why you are here today, is because of the pain from the past, and that's not real, but I didn't let it stop me. I didn't let it pause what I'm actually here to do today.
That's a book, Tamina.
Mhm.
Don't let the pain pause your purpose. That's like a three piece. Let the
Yeah.
pain pause your purpose.
Mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just live in a human brains hasn't caught up to all of the technology and all the stuff that's happened around us. And so those things become triggering and painful
Yeah.
and all of it because we get to see everything that's happening in the world simultaneously. that's, that's a lot of triggering
Isn't it?
occurring.
It is. Absolutely. It is for
So,
sure. Yeah.
so, so some of the ways you've dealt with this obviously is by talking to people and helping young people specifically with what they've been going through. So, so, so tell me, when was like your first thing that you've ever, when was it when you were in the military? Was it post-military? When did you decide to say this is your path?
My path for the military,
Yeah, your path in regards to speaking and giving inspiration to others. When was that for you?
it was while I was in the military, Winston. I would notice that as I would speak to some of the young Marines, I would see the emotions in their eyes, and I would see the difference that like even on the spot, I would see the just how they were thankful for my words. And I would also notice that, and that's how people you kind of find out where your purpose is along the way as you find out that people keep coming to you for the same thing, right? And you notice that, you know what? Okay, I'm good at this. Okay, God, I see you. I see what you're the people that you're bringing to me and the impact that I see I'm having on these people. That's what this is. Okay, so it did. It started while I was in the military, while I was coaching and mentoring a lot of young men and women. I was seeing the difference in their lives, and it made me feel good. It made me feel like, okay, this is what God has me here for. So let me continue to walk in that direction. And ever since then, people would come to me, ask me for advice, and it would make me feel good. So I knew that was the path that I was supposed to be on. And it started early, for sure. It started early.
That is so awesome. I am not one of these people who knows many Bible verses and those kind of things. I'm just not. I'm just not
Hmm.
that person. But what I
Hmm.
do know is that when Jesus told his followers to love one another as I love you, that to me seems like that's how we should be as human beings, no matter what our faith is,
Oh,
no matter
yes.
what other things that we've made up, geography and skin color, all this crap that we've made up. If we understand that you're a human being and I'm a human being and exhibiting that love, man, well, we don't even need all 8 billion people to do this to me. We just need like,
Right.
we just need like half to do that. And the world would be such a different place, I think.
It really would, Winston. Look, the golden rule, treat everyone like you'd like to be treated. Love, and exactly what you said, love your neighbors, right? It's it should be the foundation of how we should live our lives, right? But we definitely run into those that are still carrying their backpacks, and I think that that's where some of the negativity comes in the world, where some of the pushback, some of the nastiness, because it's all over, right? But a lot of that is coming from deep down inside. They haven't done that inner work. That backpack is still heavy in their lives. And you'll notice that a lot of the times is being protrude and exuded on others, and sometimes unintentionally. But you're right. It starts with love. If we can start with love, we can end with love. For sure, it could happen.
Yes,
See,
this is so amazing. And to follow on with the backpack analogy or conversation, I get a sense sometimes that when somebody is hurting or they're triggered in some ways, there's decisions that are made. So, like, let me take the stuff in my backpack and put it in your backpack
mm,
because I don't want it in here. And the only way I know how to solve it is to give you my rocks.
yes. Oh, goodness. Yes. And that's, I often take a step back because I had to do the inner work without having my father in my life, right? And when you mentioned that, Winston, it makes me think about how I often think about what my father didn't have. and what he went through and how that and his rocks in his backpack ended up inadvertently being placed in my backpack. So where that generational trauma comes from was from the previous generational trauma that, we're trying to break it. We're trying to break the curse.
Yeah.
But I often think about, yes, what was given to him, what happened to him, and how that transferred to me, and why I work so hard to make sure that my husband and I didn't transfer that to our children.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
tell you, that point is so relevant. Sometimes I hear on the news where people say, yeah, everyone should just be okay and forget about whatever they've had in the past and just get up and pull themselves by some invisible bootstraps. But then I think about what you just said there. And if you've got this generational thing, my parents came from Jamaica and they didn't have education, and hence their parents didn't have education. And they didn't know any of these things. They came up in a different world,
Yes.
a world of unbelievable racism and classism and all of the isms. And
Yes.
at the same time, and they're in a poor country, poor by American definition, not poor actually. But that carries
Yeah.
on, and that's just a couple of generations ago. And so
Yes.
and so to your point about how do we, and you and your family and husband have done a great job to try to break that. But all the time I think about this, and I've hoped that I've broken it as well, that I've broken it by doing things that my parents and their parents didn't even conceive of.
Hmm.
Then I think about, man, what have I said to young people or to my son that is a legacy of something that I heard or felt somewhere else? I don't try to drive myself nuts about it, but I get a sense that there may be some vestiges of whatever they did that are still with me.
Yes. That's good.
It's like, where is it though? I don't know.
Oh, it's there. It's there. And you don't even realize it comes out of you when it does. I've seen how I love the way that you bring your son in and just love on him, and he's included in everything with your business.
Thank you.
It's happening. We do it so naturally because we work so hard to ensure that we break that curse. It is happening. And even with me, I take every moment, every opportunity that I can and allow it to be a teachable moment with my children.
Yeah.
Whether it's something that we hear on television, something that we see on social media. Hey, look, this is what this is. And we're going to learn from someone else's situation. We're going to learn from someone else's mistake. I'm going to learn from the generational trauma, right? My parents having me at a young age, and there's nothing wrong with that. But these are things that we are making sure that our children don't have to make the same mistakes. So they're there, Winston. They're there all day long. You just by you walking and the things that you do every single day in front of your babies, that is making that change and that difference. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That to me tells me that the opportunity, as a lot of people beat down where we are in our technology, etc. I think that this is a positive way. All
Yes.
of the things that are around us can help us positively break these things faster than we ever could in the past.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We can.
Absolutely.
Kids,
Yes.
kids don't have to deal with what happened in 1979
You're right.
or
Yes.
1959. They don't. They can. We can solve and help them
Yes.
carve a path faster. And even us, as we get older, I have a lot of people that are in my age group.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it saddens me because they are still full of so much promise
Yeah.
and vigor and potential. But they say, well, because my age starts with a 4 or a 5 or a 6, that means that I'm done.
Right.
I don't need to do anything else. That bugs me. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. And we have to continue to keep our belief system. I know that it can be easy to let it go as we get a little older and times change, but even as a young adult, it's easy to lose our beliefs, right? We times are hard, things we get down on ourselves, things get tough in life. But one thing that I love for the audience to remember is that even if you don't have your own belief at that time, make sure that you surround yourself with good people and a good belief system and borrow that belief when you're down, right? There's nothing wrong with because life is going to life, like we said earlier.
That's right.
There will be times when things are absolutely phenomenal and they're going to be great. And there are also going to be times when things aren't so great. But if I'm aware of who I'm surrounding myself, who's in my circle, my Winstons of the world, my friends and my family, being aware of other strong people and other good people, when I do find myself in that path or going down that way, I can borrow their beliefs. So even if I may be getting a little older and technology not my forte, get yourself around someone. Let's change that shift in that mind for sure.
I was having this conversation with recently with my brother, and we said something that our sister didn't believe. We were like, well, we're not retiring until we're like 75 years old. And she was like, what? What do you, because she's older than us by a few years. And she's like, what do you mean? And we didn't say we are going to be working the same place. That's not what we said. We just said that there's so much opportunity in this life yet to explore
Yes.
that even after we stop doing something, doesn't mean that we can't do something else.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yes.
hear that all the time. You know, for example, I went to St. John's University, a Catholic university in New York, and then most recently was in the tournament, the March Madness tournament. And the guy who was coaching him is like 77 years old. And he walking around, you can't tell. He's got the same energy and enthusiasm that he had 30, 40 years ago. Like, I
Yes.
want to be that guy. Like,
Exactly.
there's plenty of
Exactly.
time for me to go to the beach and stuff. I can do all that many times. I want to be this dude. So,
Yes, yes, yes. And his mindset is that way. His mindset is that, okay, yes, age is my number,
yes.
but I'm still living for today. It's not time yet. And I think the more that we make sure that we continue to focus on that mindset, that love, and I'll tell you a story. So I was training for the Marine Corps Marathon. Um,
Oh, that sounds fun.
Oh, it was going to be fun. And I had in my mind, Winston, that I was going to run the Marine Corps Marathon, 26.2 miles in Quantico, Virginia. And running 5 miles, 10 miles, 13 miles, 15 miles a week. So I'm moving, I'm grooving, I'm getting it. Long story short, my knees start to tell me that because they start swelling and other things were happening. Because of course you can imagine after 20 years in the Marine Corps, well, it's they're worn.
Yeah. They're your
Right.
tires there.
And the tires are they're losing a little air. But my knees started to give way a little bit, and I wasn't able to actually run the marathon. Mentally, I was so upset because mentally that mindset, I was going to run that marathon. My body, unfortunately, was against my mind. But if we focus on letting it start here, the rest will follow if we're able to, right? But even for the older guy, right? It started there. And by it starting there, his mindset, the rest of his body was falling in line. He was still capable. So that mindset shift as we experience trauma, as we experience things that happen in life, that's what helps to fuel that courage and to fuel that resiliency. Because if I'm telling myself that I can, no matter if I'm 70, 75, 80, whatever it is, it's going to trickle to my heart and
Yeah.
it's going to trickle through the rest of my body. And that is what we're talking about. That's the focus of how we keep moving forward each and every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a great thing because you just gave a really great viewpoint of us as we get older, but also you're talking to young people. I just think humankind, human beings, they just got so much to offer. I know
Hmm.
we get in this scarcity mindset. Don't come here, you're invading this, or you're taking that. We live in the most abundant time in the world.
Yes.
You know, it breaks my heart when I see people who can't experience that same abundance that we
Yeah.
can here in the
Yes.
United States. And sharing it is one thing, but sharing the wisdom and the opportunity is another thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, as always, it's phenomenal to have it. Every time I talk to you, I get so freaking, I get like jazzed. I'm like ready to take my worn knees and run through, and run through a wall because I get so I get so excited about chatting with you. You know, I do. What's coming up in the future for you?
Yeah, so more speaking engagements. Like I said, I am on a mission to encourage the young people of today. Um, I want young people to know that their past, like when I talk about my father and my family, their past and what's been their experience of their past does not have to move with them in their future. So I know that by giving them and sharing, like you talk about sharing, right? Our wealth, we have a wealth of knowledge as older individuals. And a lot of times we don't think that they're listening, but they are listening. They are, even if one student takes one of my tools or one of my resources that I give to them when I'm speaking to them, if they take one thing, then I'm doing my job. So I will continue to, I'm compelled to continue to speak life, not only into the young adults, but also to the teachers.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of times we give them the responsibility here, you teach my child. But in actuality, it should be a partnership. We
that's
should
right.
be collaborating to help our children be good human beings and be able to tackle the adversities that they're going to have in their future, right? So speaking with the young adults and also speaking with the educators to help them continue on their path to success with our students in their classes.
You know, I've got a thought here. First time anyone has ever heard this, and so I don't know how you feel about this. But at some point here in the future, you and I and others of like mind, we should have an event somewhere where we pour into people. You
Hmm.
know, I know you're in Dallas, Texas. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. There's plenty of places in the world we can find
Yes.
where we just get together and we get like-minded folks and say, let's just spend a day pouring into those who are important and those who are willing and those who are able and interested in
Mhm.
our lives. I
Yeah,
think that would be a phenomenal day.
I think so too. I think you should let me know when it's on the schedule.
Yes,
So
yes.
I
And
can plan.
I just thought about it because my career path tells me that I wish to do what you do
Mm,
sooner than later, and I enjoy it. I love it. I've created a public speaking group in my day life where we've got 150 people doing it or
oh,
learning.
awesome.
Thank you.
Love it.
Because it's passion and it resonates. We human beings, we love to tell each other not just advice, but the stories that we tell each other are more powerful. We are the original AI.
Yes. There you go. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's right. We when we tell our stories, it we know it's us telling our stories. We know it's
Yes.
not a computer telling us our stories.
Yes.
And so that we're gonna do that,
Yeah.
Tamina.
I like that.
That is a marker for you and I. And
Yes.
there's others that we know who would be
Hmm.
phenomenal in partnership with us.
I like that a lot.
If someone wants to connect with you and to learn more about you, what's a good way to do that?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. My handle is Coach Tamina _Ward. And I also my website is coachminaward.com. I'm also on Facebook under Tamina Ward, so you can reach me there as well.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Yes, thanks everyone for a phenomenal conversation. Tomina, you've been with us for a number of times. I appreciate you constantly being part as we continue to evolve this conversation about what the courage we all need in order for us to have strong lives and for us to be productive and creative and for us to really give into our community. So thank you again. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Winston. Every time I'm spending time with Mr. Winston, I am absolutely over the moon. I really appreciate you. I really do.
Thanks again, everyone. Everyone, please stay tuned and do all the cool things like subscribe and give us comments and all that stuff in the Courageous Creativity Show and the Fearless Productivity Show. This is Winston and Tomina. Take care.